Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Oh, welcome to another Dishing Drama Dana show. I hope you guys are well and good, and you've had a better week than me because, as you guys know, a shower pan broke and caused a complete demise to my bathroom, adjacent bedroom, and so much more, which completely devastated my plans of content for the next 2 weeks at least, and probably caused maybe 2 months of construction work to my house. Who knew that a shower pan breaching could cause so much problems? Oh my goodness. And my bathroom was newly renovated, so I'm devastated.
That's hot.
But mainly, I'm devastated because of the distraction it's causing me. I just want to focus. I have so many things to tell you guys. So first and foremost, I want to start off today by discussing some tea to do with the Valley. And guess what? Faith Stowers dropped a complaint against Bravo and Evolution today. And you guys, before you ask, there are more coming. I keep telling you. And you don't believe me, but there are more coming. Now, before we begin me telling you all about this complaint, which there's a lot of tea in, I want to play where we started in all this, which was a live that Faith Stowers did in 2020 when she just couldn't take it anymore because nobody was listening about what happened to her on Vanderpump Rules.
Girl, I did a show with the all-white cast, and after
you were the only
black person on the show. Girl, like, yes, only, yes, I know. And girl, it was a lot. It was Bravo, so the audience there is different than like the TV audience, and it was I felt like after their friend did something that we both were involved in, that he's done like 1,000 times, for some reason, they wanted to attack me instead of him. It was like they wanted to attack. Like, I was wrong and I was this and I was that, calling me names, saying my hair was nappy, which was weird coming out of their mouths. And like, and I believe it hit the ceiling for me and made me really want to run for the hills when Kristen and Stassi decided they were going to call the cops on me. This is when I quit. Like, I left the show, was invited back, but, to tell my truth, but decided it wasn't going to do anything for me. So I ended up knocking me back. So I decided felt like they got upset with me because I was at a club called Lucy Bellows. There's a guy who partially owns that club named Marcus Molinar. And I seen them, Kristen and Stassi there. I seen Kristen, Stassi. I think I seen Kristen there for sure though. And there was this article on, is it Daily? Something Daily. It's like a news site. Daily Mail. Uh-huh. There was an article out where there was an African American lady who, it was like a weird photo, so she looked very, very light skinned, and had these different like weird tattoos or whatever. And they showcased her. And I guess this woman was like robbing people and stealing like gold bars. The woman was at large. Okay, she was drugging them. She was on a mission, and they called the cops and said it was me. Yes. And this is like true story. I heard this from actually Stassi doing an interview. She's telling them what they did to me.
But what did they have against you though? For what?
I don't know. I was so nice to them. I don't know where it came. I think it was just because they felt like Brittany was so sweet. And it hurt her. But even then it was like they both cheated on their partners with him as well. So I was just really like confused while they were attacking me in the sense and not really giving him nothing. In my opinion, he got off very, very, very easy, especially with the things I was being told.
That happens a lot with men.
But with Lisa, I was shocked by the most. When she first approached me, she was very like, happy about the fact that, there was a black person going to be on the show. And she was like, I want you to put them in their place, kind of give them this Nene Leakes kind of attitude, And I was very nice coming in. I wasn't really giving nobody real attitude and giving her like that show she needed from me, I felt like. So that's why you don't see me in any confessionals like they had. I didn't have anything like that. Anything. I felt like. In my opinion, this could be different on their end, but in my opinion, I thought it was weird that everybody on the show got to do, interviews and confessionals, and I didn't get a chance to even do that, to tell my story, which was a very interesting story, being a Black woman in the military at the time. At the time, I was still in the Army, so I was leaving military drill, like real jobs to come film with y'all, to act up. It was like y'all really not taking that seriously at all. So it was just, I didn't feel like they appreciated that. And I adored Lisa because I learned a lot from her, because she's a real businesswoman. Yeah. But I was just shocked that once I left the show, they used that opportunity to really just lay into me instead of letting me speak for myself. And when I did Entertainment Tonight, I was threatened, like, if you keep doing interviews, you're gonna get sued. So I'm like, but you guys were talking about me the entire season, and I left, and they still was upset about it. So, well, girl, it was a lot, child. It was a lot, but I feel like now I'm in a way better position anyway. So
yeah, I mean, like the lack of disrespect people have for Black women is just,
it's crazy,
insane. It's so insane.
It is.
Well, I thought it was important to share that because I'm going to get into the details of the complaint, and I think you can see that more entertainment version of how she felt about things, and then now you're going to see the legal version of it, and I think that's important. So I really feel for Faith. You already feel up against it because you're Black in an all-white cast show. Then you go on and you end up being told to be a stereotype or you're not going to make it on the show. Then you don't want to be the stereotype, and so you're like punished for it. Then you try to go in a different direction with other drama, and you're destroyed over it. And then your cast members make all these microaggressive comments and racist comments, and makes you feel even more on the outskirts of things. And it's got to be really hard. And it took a long time for Bravo to react and actually fire people over it. Originally, their stance was get rid of her and shut her up. But because of the climate, to do with what happened to George Floyd, finally people were like being sensitive to what it's like for Black people, that they're not treated the same way when they're pulled over by the police. I really loved Obama's movie that he did because it showed a really great example of microaggression in it. It was called Leave the World Behind. And there's a moment where Julia Roberts rents this ridiculous mansion in the Hamptons with her family. And in the middle of the night, the owners show up because they've had a car issue. And even though the owners with a young woman who's like 18 years old and his daughter, the woman who answers the door, the white woman played by Julia Roberts, is thinking right off the bat, something's fishy here. Why would the owner show up? And, all these excuses. But the read between the lines is this really the owner of this Hamptons all-white neighborhood house? Because the owner and his daughter are Black. And so the question you ask yourself as you're watching the movie is, would he have been treated different if he had been like Rick Hilton, for example? Just bringing it to the theme of the show today, that for the second part. So, and that's a really good question. And I think the answer was the way they played it out in the movie, which is that it took a really long time for this white woman to accept that this Black man was the owner of this Hamptons house and that they were both in it together in this horrific World War III event that was happening. And obviously, one of the main political attacks that the World War III foreign power is using is to turn American against American due to tensions within race and ethnicity wars. It's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. But Bravo wasn't protecting Faith, and Bravo was exploiting Faith's color. And if you recall, Faith is the reason that Kristen Doty got fired from the show. It's being discussed on The Valley Season 1, Episode 3 as we speak right now. It just dropped this week. And one of the things that keeps coming up is Kristen Doty's calling this cast member friend of hers, Michelle, a Republican racist. And everyone's like, I cannot believe you decided to make that the angle of what you're going to talk about on The Valley, because you know you were fired because you were called a racist from Vanderpump Rules. So why the hell would you allege that against somebody else when you know how damning it is, because you've been through it? And aren't you a hypocrite because you were fired over something similar to that when you were on Vanderpump Rules, and now we're trying to have a fresh start, which is The Valley, and you just nuked it, Kristen? Why? Just so happens that with the dropping of this episode, probably not by chance, but on purpose, Faith lawsuit drops. Let me begin the show today to talk about this. I've got a lot more. I'm going to also tell you what a vacuous mess Paris in Love Season 2 is. I can't help myself. I desperately wanted to like it. As you guys know, I came up with Paris in Hollywood and the scene, and we partied a lot in the same circles. And so I saw her, before she branded herself. And so I was really curious to see how this season was going to go. And oh my gosh, what a disaster. And there's a really interesting dichotomy happening between the Hilton family with Paris in Love and the Umanskys family with Buying Beverly Hills. I dropped a confessional video yesterday telling everybody in the Patreon about the secrets of what Buying Beverly Hills Season 2 spilled, which I caught, and some of the things had a deeper meaning for me because of my time with Kyle and Mauricio and Faye Resnick, etc., and Paul Nassif, who makes an appearance on Season 2. And there was a lot of tea that I think went over people's heads in the season, and there were a lot of tells that I recognized. So that is in yesterday's confessional video. If you haven't seen it, it's a must-see, especially if you're Dancing with the Stars or Buying Beverly Hills or This Is Paris in Love fan. There's a lot there. And so it is part one of a two-part series in the Patreon. Now, please remember, it is only $6 a month to see that most juicy content. And so you should really spend it. And it helps me, especially since my house has been totaled. Aww. Okay. That's my pitch. Let's move on. Okay, we're going to talk about Faith's complaint. Oh my goodness. Let's start there. All right. So I got this little baby sent to me on Friday, April 5th. Ding, ding, ding. Here's what it says. Faith Stowers is suing NBC Universal Media LLC, Bravo Media LLC, and EFT Media Productions LLC, DBA Evolution Media. And she's suing on the basis of retaliation, discrimination, hostile work environment harassment, retaliation again, failure to prevent discrimination and harassment, wrongful termination and violation of public policy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. And she's demanding a jury trial. Few observations just at this beginning part. A, no Lisa Vanderpump. B, no Alex Baskin. C, no Kristen Doty named in the lawsuit. Lisa Vanderpump said that she wanted to add more color to the cast. And colors, of course, in quotes. Although she had never set out to be a reality star, Stowers was excited by the opportunity and accepted the offer from Lisa Vanderpump. She was paid a total of $5,000 for her season, a figure she assumed would rise over time. Can you imagine $5,000? Is this for real? So the overview is that she reported to her superiors at NBC and Evolution racism, sexual harassment, and physical assault in her first season. And when she did this, the response was to demote her or fire her and just keep her on the show as what we call a guest star. Once you've made an appearance on one of the franchises, you move from being, a regular guest of the show. Let's say if you weren't a cast member before and you just make an appearance, to what they call a guest star. And that's like a person who's already been a Bravo celebrity, paid cast member that's now just making appearances, like Vicky Gunvalson did in OC last season. Essentially. And as that example demonstrates, it doesn't matter how big or small your impact was on the show, you're still treated all the same. And to be fair, I do think Evolution and Bravo retaliated against Vicky Gunvalson because she did not want to be a friend of, if you recall. And as a result of that, they ended up saying, okay, when she really missed the show, they were like, well, if you really want to be on the show that bad, we'll have you come back as a guest star and we'll pay you nothing. And you can do that and we'll see how it goes. And of course she did that and nothing came from it. So she won't be doing that again. This is the dangling of the banana. I like to remind you guys that NBC and Evolution love to do with their talent to get them to do what they want. It's a very effective tactic and it always works without fail. And you know who the master is of it? Alex. But it would appear from this lawsuit that Alex might have another minion he uses, which I wasn't aware of. His name is Bill Langworthy, and he's specific to Vanderpump Rules. He's the show's showrunner.
And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't.
Faith was told by the production company to, in no uncertain terms, keep quiet and play nice. And then allegations ensued from her fellow Vanderpump Rules cast members in a social media harassment campaign. And essentially, some of these were based on that she went AWOL from the military, which was not true, that she was a thief, which was not true, and she was a career criminal wanted by the LAPD, which was also not true. And it is her opinion that NBC and Evolution tightly controlled the cast members' public statements and messaging and condoned, ratified, and amplified these vicious lies. Well, and I suppose as a sidebar, you could say that Alex Baskin is rewarding Kristen Doute and Jax Taylor for their previous bad behavior by giving them a spin-off show where they're actually the stars of the show rather than an ensemble cast. And he was involved with this season of Vanderpump Rules that Faith Stowers is complaining about in her lawsuit. Let me read you something from Variety in 2020. The countdown to Taylor's ouster, meaning Jax, began months ago as soon as Bravo fired co-stars Stassi Schroeder and Kristen Doute because of their past racist actions against Faith Stowers, a Black former Vanderpump Rules cast member. In 2018, Schroeder and Doute reported Stowers to the police for a crime she had nothing to do with. Stowers revealed what they had done during an Instagram live chat in early June of this year. Her account went viral. And after this, fans called on Bravo to fire Jax Taylor as well, since he had also accused Stowers of crimes in a tweet. Now, just with the launch of this complaint, Faith Stowers is launching a tell-all podcast that will break down Vanderpump Rules, just like Rachel Levis's Rogue podcast. And she'll also be talking about the Valley fallout. She's taken a new role on Randall Emmett's new movie. Oh, God, Randall, really? And so what is this thing that she's in? Cash Out 2, High Rollers, a sequel directed by fellow Vanderpump Rules alum Randall Emmett. John Travolta stars in the heist film, and Stowers went toe-to-toe with the legend in her role. I'm going to be shooting at John Travolta. He's shooting at me. It's crazy, she said. Alex isn't going to like that. Oh, boy. I'm sure Randall will say he didn't know. Oh, my goodness. All right, we'll keep going here. Boy, this is messy. Some other notable items in this complaint is that there is case law to say that NBC could be considered liable as an employer, even though they are not the direct employer Evolution is of Faith. That's interesting precedent. If the judge agrees, wow, that has some real ramifications for NBC. It says Stowers agreed to appear on season 4 as a cast member. Without the benefit of counsel, Stowers entered into an agreement with Evolution and NBC, entitling Stowers to a grand total of $5,000 in exchange for her participation, with the caveat that Stowers was required to ostensibly forfeit every conceivable legal right she had or may have had under California law.
And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't.
And by the way, she was casted when she was a server for Pump. Stowers said in 22, listen to this, I didn't know about some of these. Stowers was victimized by Evolution NBC and the cast during her time on Vanderpump Rules and for many years thereafter. Some of this victimization came in the form of racist slurs, others in the form of physical violence. Lauren Birmingham, aka Lala Kent, would routinely joke that she was blacker than Stowers. These deeply offensive sentiments were on many occasions caught on camera. Also captured on camera was Brittany Cartwright hurling racial slurs at Stowers over speakerphone in the presence of other cast members and mocking her nappy hair. Several cast members also embarked on a racially charged and defamatory harassment campaign against Stowers, which is further detailed below. It turns out that Faith had confided in a producer, she claims, that she had developed feelings for Lala Kent, and production was super excited about this thing that she said in confidence and made the dynamic as awkward and uncomfortable as possible for her. How did they do this? Well, on the cast trip to Hawaii, the producers arranged for Lala and Faith to stay in the same room with only one bed. Production also pressured Lala and Faith to get intimate and touch each other sensually on camera. All of this was greatly distressing to Stowers. So in number 24, they lay out in detail what happened in the mysterious knife scene that was cut, but people witnessed that Faith went through with Lala Kent. Lala allegedly assaulted Faith. Here's what they said happened in the lawsuit. Other cast members have alluded to the so-called, quote, knife incident in the past, but it has never been fully fleshed out due to Evolution's and NBC's cover-up. Lala Kent and Stowers were in Sir's dining room arguing over Stowers' disclosure of something Kent believed was said in confidence. Kent became severely agitated, losing all self-control and hurling barbs at Stowers. Stowers and Kent retreated to a back room with Kent still screaming. With the cameras rolling, Kent grabbed a knife from a nearby counter and began brandishing it at Faith Stowers, holding it to her neck and threatening to cut a bitch. Faith looked into Kent's eyes while Kent was wielding the knife and could see that Lala was deadly serious and had completely lost control, and consequently that she, Stowers, was in actual danger. Faith feared Kent would stab, slice, or disfigure her. Furthermore, as a black woman who served in the military, she felt that if she attempted to disarm Lala or otherwise venture to protect herself, she would be stereotyped due to her race and blamed for the events. The fact of the matter is that she was most certainly correct. Oh, and guess what? There was also allegedly a Bravo cover-up. Now, I have heard many Bravo cover-ups regarding Vanderpump Rules alleged, and this is the first one that I've seen this well documented. So here we go. Deeply shaken, Faith Stowers reported the events to NBC and Evolution and expressed her intention to involve law enforcement. In response to Stowers' disclosure, NBC and Evolution began the cover-up almost immediately. Bill Langworthy, the show's executive producer, called Stowers that night to discourage her from involving the police or escalating the situation by speaking to the media.
And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't.
Langworthy downplayed the incident's significance and strongly implied to Stowers that speaking out would come with severe career ramifications. The next day, Vanderpump met with Stowers, informing her in no uncertain terms that she would be terminated if she could not find a way to, quote, get along with Lala Kent. Oh, look at that. Lisa really's got Lala's back. I wonder why. Faith Stowers was utterly astonished and disturbed by NBC's and Evolution's response. However, given the threat to her job security, livelihood, and reputation, Stowers decided to hold her tongue. She neither reported the incident to the police nor, at the time, spoke to the media. Wow, you guys, this has Scientology vibes, doesn't it? Bravo's like really a Scientology. Who knew? I swear, I've studied Scientology at great lengths, and there's a lot of parallels in the way that they function at Bravo when these types of scandals break out, if these allegations are true. And I've heard this from so many people at this point, I kind of believe it. I know I was a cover-up. They covered me up so much, they buried me. I'm like actually doing this podcast from like 8 feet under. Ooh, listen to this. They didn't call her a guest star in her contract. They called her a volunteer. And they degraded the status of her next season to this, which isn't even got like a fancy name in it. In this particular incident, they had her sign some sort of contract following her original contract where she's a volunteer. They didn't even try to coax her with her ego by calling her a guest star. A volunteer? What is she? Working for a charity? Even though they degrade her down to a volunteer, they make her, the main plot point of season 6. Okay, so here's what happens. It was disclosed that Jax Taylor and Faith Stowers had a brief consensual sexual relationship. Taylor had been untruthful about the status of his relationship with Cartwright. Big shocker. I mean, really. And now, by the way, Jax Taylor has new allegations of cheating on Brittany Cartwright, which is why their relationship has fallen apart on the Valley. Okay. So Taylor had been untruthful about the status of his relationship with Cartwright, so their relationship was that of an affair. A hot mic in Stowers' home music studio inadvertently recorded a conversation between her and Jax Taylor. In the recording, Stowers and Taylor discussed their relationship, and Taylor informed Stowers of his intention to leave Cartwright. Another cast member, James Kennedy, illicitly accessed Stowers' phone. Okay, that's not legal. And found the recording, which he sent to himself. Stowers had no idea Kennedy had accessed the recording until she heard chatter about its contents. Shortly after that, Stowers received a call from Bravo indicating that she, quote, earned her way back on the show. Oh, wow. Yeah, they do that. They defo do that. She's not lying about this at all. Although angry about her mistreatment and retaliatory relegation in pay and status, Stowers agreed to appear at Sheena Shea's birthday party following heavy pressure from production and the cast. When she entered the party, production handed her a form she had to sign. Stowers was then instructed to confront Jax Taylor about the affair, which he adamantly and falsely denied. Stowers would later learn that the form was her contract. When she was told that she had, quote, earned her way back, Stowers took that to mean that she would again be compensated for her participation and have a normal contract like the other cast members. She was wrong. Her season 6 contract, like her season 5 contract, described her as a, quote, volunteer. Still doesn't get even a fancy word like guest star in there. Jeez. Now I'm going to say something that is so utterly controversial that your eardrums might blow out right now. And I'm going to transition this into the Patreon after this part. But I want to say this publicly. And I want to make sure this is on all listening platforms and YouTube, okay? Faith was clearly exploited from these allegations for commercial gain. And she was, in a sense, tricked into signing contracts from the way that she describes it. No legal advice, being young, dangling the fame carrot, telling her that they're going to do stuff for her if she just sticks with the program and doesn't report it to law enforcement and all of these things. Well, guess what that is called, okay? Are you ready? Because this is the controversial part. Modern slavery. Anti-Slavery International defines modern slavery when an individual is exploited by others for personal or commercial gain, whether tricked, coerced, or forced, they lose their freedom. It can come with human trafficking, forced labor, or debt bondage. Now, there's an allegation in this lawsuit that Bravo threatened her that they would sue her if she disclosed some of the things that happened on the show because of the NDAs that she signed in these volunteer contracts. I mean, that sounds like, to me, a distant cousin of debt bondage, if you will. So given that this is a lawsuit about racism and sexual harassment, amongst other things, and Faith is Black, there should be a fair amount of outrage that you guys are all experiencing and feeling at this moment. And I'll say it again, these goddamn contracts should be deemed void ab initio. And the arrogance of Bravo having the storyline of this season of The Valley be about calling someone else a racist that's a new cast member on the show who's first generation Mexican and Persian after this shit is truly beyond my comprehension, honestly. Like, either the people at Bravo and Evolution are not only tone deaf, but they're just complete idiots because they already know from the Faith Stowers incident to be really conscious of these things and to make changes going forward so that more people aren't hurt by their storylines and Bravo, etc. But are they changing anything? No. Are they rewarding people who do this? Yes. Perhaps Faith Stowers should have mentioned the 13th Amendment from the allegations that are reflected in her complaint. And I'd say producer Bill Langworthy is smart because he went to Cornell University, so he should know better. But now he's working on Southern hospitality mainly, so he seems like he's a better fit over in that group. For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month, and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about, and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for? All right, you guys.